This video is brought to you by Captivating History. Never-ending wars. Throughout history, we can observe various leaders in their struggle to amass more power. And there are few things as intoxicating to a ruler as acquiring new land. The three Punic Wars were a great example of this, with Carthage and Rome battling for control of various Mediterranean areas over the course of dozens of years. Although Rome ultimately ended up the victor in all three wars, Carthage put up a mighty fight, and it was Hannibal Barca who was responsible for some of their greatest triumphs. Even after Carthage was defeated, the name Hannibal Barca was spoken by Romans with reverence and fear for decades, and he remains one of the most respected military generals in all of history. Early years. Hannibal Barca was born in Carthage, the area now known as Tunisia, in 247 BCE, into a tumultuous world filled with war and corruption. At the time of his birth, the Carthage government had been in decline for years, with a great disconnect between the Carthage government and the military, which made progress for the empire difficult. The relationship between Carthage and Rome had seen growing tension for years, and in 241 BCE, the First Punic War was lost to Rome. Hannibal's father, Hamilcar, was a proud Carthaginian general who devoted his life to Carthage and eventually died for the cause in 228 BCE. Having grown up in such uncertainty, and with his father as such a powerful influence, Hannibal Barca had a clear objective from an early age: bring victory to Carthage. Hannibal learns the ways of war. His father was often away fighting in wars, so it is unlikely that Hannibal saw him very often. Still, he was strongly affected by his role in the Carthaginian army. As a young child, Hannibal was taught advanced military methods and studied not only battle tactics, but was also given a strong intellectual education. This was just as important as attack strategies, as he had to interact with many state leaders and governments. Hamilcar infused his son with a hatred of Rome before he reached the age of 10, ensuring that he would grow up with a desire to vanquish them and gain back control of the lands they had taken. At 26, Hannibal was made leader of Carthage's military. Despite his young age, he had built up a reputation for being smart, concise, and focused. Those qualities, along with his impressive 10 years of experience, earned him instant respect from his soldiers. Hannibal was on his way to realizing his lifelong goal. The start of the Second Punic War. Hannibal quickly established himself as a force to be reckoned with. He was not afraid to stand up to Rome, which he did to great effect when Rome partnered with Saguntum to overthrow him. Hannibal wasted no time in showing his disdain for Rome by completely flattening Saguntum. The Romans now woke to the fact that they had an adversary to be feared. The battle in Saguntum sparked the start of the Second Punic War. Rome did not like to be embarrassed, and they were desperate to bring down Hannibal and the whole of the Carthage army. Hannibal knew he had to strike quickly, and he set about doing so in the most unexpected way possible, by crossing over the Alps with thousands of men and horses, and some unexpected big friends, North African elephants. Crossing through the Alps was a dangerous endeavor. The conditions were treacherous, and many men and animals lost their lives on the journey. However, given how difficult the trek was, this provided the Carthaginian army a great advantage. No one in Rome guessed that they would go to so much trouble. Using elephants was another stroke of genius by Hannibal. Carthage had war elephants that had come from India and Central Africa. Such creatures were completely unknown and unexpected by Romans, making for quite the sight when they finally reached the bottom of the mountains. Hannibal and his army won their first battle and moved into the territory around Trebia, where they replenished their supplies and further trained their troops. Hannibal was a shrewd commander, tapping into the discontent of citizens in not only Trebia, but many areas he occupied. This only helped to build up his support and his army. As the years wore on, Hannibal enjoyed several more battle successes, continuing to defeat Romans as they moved from territory to territory. The Romans could not keep up with Hannibal's carefully formulated attacks, which he had honed through his years of study. With so many victories, Hannibal felt confident that the moment he had been waiting for had come. so he and his soldiers marched towards Rome. As Hannibal neared the city, he discovered that Rome was not as defenseless as he had expected. While Carthage had been beating them in smaller battles, the Romans had used considerable resources to fortify the city. It was clear to Hannibal that any attempt to attack would end in miserable defeat. With his dream on hold, Hannibal contacted his government for assistance. Sadly, years of incompetence and corruption had rendered Carthage's leadership useless, and they did not provide the support Hannibal requested. Rome's worst nightmare. While Hannibal could never lay siege to Rome, he did leave a lasting impact on the Republic, which would shape their policies and responses to conflict for years to come. Hannibal knew he did not have the manpower to attack Rome directly, so instead he attacked them in a different, more thoughtful way. He went after the minds of their people. Hannibal worked for years to turn Roman citizens against their rulers. He and his men were very successful in persuading several communities to revolt. Revolution was a terrifying concept for the Roman government. Aside from infecting the minds of the population, Hannibal caused disruption in various places around Italy, resulting in Roman officials constantly experiencing civil unrest. Hannibal's tactics proved so effective that his name alone could fuel a feeling of despair and anxiety. The Roman military had never faced the tactics that Hannibal was using, and for years they watched as their people turned against them in favor of Hannibal's superior mind. Through these methods, Hannibal acquired a stronger army, gaining control of many communities surrounding Rome. He was a calculated leader, constantly keeping his opponents on their toes, even frequently donning disguises to avoid being targeted. Battle at Cannae. For many years, Hannibal continued to build support and stoke fear in the hearts of Romans. It all came to a head when Hannibal's brilliance was displayed during the Battle of Cannae. Rome was tired of dealing with Hannibal and confident that its sheer number of soldiers would vanquish Hannibal and his army once and for all. Rome foolishly forgot that they were dealing with one of the most brilliant military masterminds history has ever seen. Hannibal had spent years learning about Romans' military strategies. Once he got word that Rome was planning attack, he prepared his troops for every possible scenario. Hannibal's knowledge did not fail him, and Carthage dominated the Roman army in the most humiliating and brutal defeat the empire had ever known. 80% of the army was wiped out on that day, and Hannibal's victory over Rome seemed closer than ever. The end of a dream. For 10 years, Hannibal maintained a strong presence in Italy, but his governing council in Carthage never provided the support he needed to fully take down Rome. Lack of power eventually led to his defeat. Roman troops, under the governance of Scipio Africanus, gained ground little by little until finally forcing Hannibal's surrender after the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE. Never a dull moment. Despite the disappointment of such a huge loss, Hannibal did not finish his life quietly. He successfully ran for office in Carthage, making positive changes before having to leave for Greece amid renewed tension with Rome. He then oversaw the navy in Greece before leaving for Armenia, then Crete, and finally Bithynia. In Bithynia, the world witnessed Hannibal's last military stroke of genius. He had Bithynia's naval fleet carry vases full of venomous snakes to their enemies, and then hurled the vases on board, resulting in mass hysteria and death. This unexpected tactic was not only brilliant, but also a chilling example of the first use of biological warfare. Hannibal died in a small Turkish village a few years later at the age of 65. He remains one of the most respected and innovative military generals of all time. To learn more about Hannibal Barca, then check out our book, Hannibal Barca, a captivating guide to the Carthaginian general who fought in the Second Punic War between Carthage and ancient Rome. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook for free while still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.